Okay. Welcome to this September 10th meeting of the Women's Network. I'm Audrey Atkins. I'm your president this year. And we have just a couple of quick announcements. We've got our DEI committee formed, and Amber Anderson is working on that, and you'll be hearing more about that coming up. Also, as we get closer to the end of the year, we start thinking about next year and closing out this past year. Part of that is dues. We have a surprising number of people who have not paid their 2020 dues. Even though we're not meeting and eating lunch, we still have the benefit of our network and these meetings we've put together and some, cash expenses that we have every year, regardless of whether we're at the Harvard Center or not. So if you find yourself among those people who have not paid their dues, please reach out to Gail or me, and we'll talk about that because we really do need those dues to keep the organization as a whole going and viable. So I'd appreciate it if y'all would just double check your dues paying. And with that, we will go on to our brief introductions. Like we do every week, I will set the tone by saying I'm Audrey Atkins, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement at WBHM and the author of They Call Me Orange Juice, and then I'll put in a short shameless plug for the two classes I'm teaching through Art Play in Creative Nonfiction this fall, one for high schoolers and one for adults. And with that, I will kick it over to Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Reeves. I'm a fundraising coach. I teach an online course for nonprofits on how to raise money through major gifts. And I'm co-chair of the program committee for TWN with Ginger Jefferson.
Thank you. Yes, please say if you're on the board. I always forget to mention that. Ginger.
I'm Ginger Jefferson. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Community Foundation of Greater Birmingham. And I'm on the board, and I'm the incoming president for 2021, which I don't want Audrey to leave, but I do want 2020 to be over.
I understand, and no offense taken. Melva.
Thank you, and good afternoon, y'all. Good to see everybody. I am a past president of this illustrious organization. Glad that I did not have to do my presidency in 2020 as well. So thank you, Audrey, for holding the load down. I'm the owner of Tate & Associates, a leadership consulting firm that specializes in human resource management and career development. Have been doing a lot of diversity, inclusion, and equity training lately. And as of last month, I received the Hoover Area Chamber of Commerce Small Business of the Year Award.
Wow. Yay. That's awesome. Congratulations, Melva.
Thank you.
Well deserved, I'm sure. Judy.
I'm Judy Moriarty Lewis. I'm retired. I've been retired for a while. I love finding out what's going on in our community. I've lived here. I moved from the north 42 years ago, but I love it here, and it has changed so much in all those years, and I'm so glad that we have all these different cultures giving us all these rich experiences now, and I am really interested in this topic.
Thank you, Missy.
Hi, Missy Burchart, Vice President of Communications and Development for the Literacy Council. Very grateful to be a member of the Women's Network and very excited about our program today. So thank you.
Sandy.
I am Sandy Stewart, owner of Championship Marketing, and we raise money for high school athletic associations. And even though there are about 16 states in the country that are not having high school sports right now, we still need to, just like our organization, there are still those costs that need to be, raised or so anyway, still kind of a busy time, but that's it.
Thank you, Sandy. Val, sorry. Oh, she's muted.
I'm muted. Sorry about that. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Valerie Thomas. I'm the president of CEO of the VAL Group. I provide a recruiting support service. I started to support UAB and Children's, and it's been very, very quiet. I was planning on no business to first quarter, and I made some modifications in our protocol so that we're COVID safe, and man, things have just picked up. So I'm happy to say I'm busy again. Yay!
Yeah, we're happy to hear you say it too, Val.
It was looking kind of bleak.
Sydney Hoover.
Hi, I'm Sydney Hoover. I am has stepped down as Executive Director of Alabama Communities of Excellence, but I'm still involved as Director Emeritus. But I'm mostly retired now, but I'm delighted to see everyone. And hello, Judy
Hey.
Lewis. We haven't seen each other in a long time. Pleased to see you. I'm pleased to see everyone, but Judy's an old friend.
Thank you. Louise Thibodeau.
I'm Lou Thibodeau. I am deacon at St. Thomas Episcopal Church. And I just want to second what Judy said about being able to get in touch with a large variety of people and hear different perspectives on things. This is one thing that I really enjoy about this network. And I look forward to keeping up my membership for many years to come.
Thank you. Cindy Kirk.
Hey, I'm Cindy Kirk. I'm Vice President for Educational Services at Alabama Public Television, and I'm really excited about today's topic. And ditto to all the things that have been said about, you know, the topics that you guys bring to us from the program committee. It's just, and this right now, it's especially important. I think it's kind of a lifeline. I've had a lot of hours of Zoom meetings in the last couple of days, but I still really look forward to this.
Great. Thank you for coming. Robin Demonia.
Hi, I'm Robin Demonia. I'm Executive Vice President of Direct Communications, a public relations firm here in Birmingham.
Gail Vaughn.
I'm frantically taking attendance. Sorry, I'm your secretary at TWN.
Thank you, Gail. If y'all need anything, reach out to Gail. Julie Levinson Gabus.
Hi, I'm Julie Levinson Gabus. I'm at with Summit Media. Yeah, ditto on what everybody has said here. So yeah, I'm enjoying the meetings. Looking forward to the topic. Thanks.
Glad you're here. Babs Buchanan.
I am Babs Buchanan, and I just unmuted myself. And you know, the squeaky wheel gets the worm, or no, the squeaky wheel gets oiled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have been trying to get my recycling picked up for 3 months. It just got done.
Yay! Persistence pays off. Let's see, and since people have taken their screens off, everybody's jumped around a little bit. Olivia, Allison, I think you're next. Let's see, where's Olivia? Did we lose her? No, she's there. Olivia? Going once, going twice? All right, let's see. We have screen name M. Moore. Would you like to introduce yourself? All right. We've got Melvia Walton.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melvia Walton, Grants Coordinator at the Birmingham Public Library, and I'm also a Women's Network board member, and very excited to learn more about this topic today.
Thank you, Melvia. We got Amber Anderson.
Good afternoon, ladies. My name is Amber Anderson, and I work at UAB. I'm in HR. I'm a learning and development specialist. I'm also an adjunct instructor for freshmen and sophomores. Hi, Cristina. So excited to have you here today and excited about the presentation. And I'm also a board member.
Thank you. Amber is also the chair of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Okay, people have jumped around, so have I missed anybody?
You missed me.
Oh, there you go.
Ann Hayes, Investment Advisor, 1919 Investment Council. Looking forward to the presentation.
Thank you, Ann, and my apologies.
Oh, no problem.
All right, with that, we will move right on into our program. I had the pleasure of meeting Cristina Almanza when I served on the board of PRSA, the Public Relations Society for America, the Birmingham chapter. That's a big mouthful, but I really enjoyed getting to meet Cristina and working with her on the board. Cristina joined Buffalo Rock in 2015 as their business development coordinator. She's originally from Torreon, Mexico, but has lived in Alabama since 2001. And she became a citizen in 2017. I remember when that happened. It was wonderful. Cristina has achieved a Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree in graphic design, as well as a Master's in Business Administration from Jacksonville State University. Go Gamecocks. In 2013, she received a Web Design and Development Certificate from Emory University and earned an Accredited Public Relations Professional, APR, National Certification in September 2015. Throughout her career, her experiences included operations management as well as corporate design and branding, using a perfect blend of business and aesthetics. Easy for me to say, isn't it? Cristina focuses on continued growth by highlighting the assets of each of her projects. Cristina is deeply devoted to helping her community. She is one of Birmingham Business Journal's top 40 under 40 class of 2020. And in April, she was awarded the Hands-On Birmingham Ignite Corporate Volunteer of the Year Award. She has participated in several community projects like Birmingham Taco Fest, Birmingham Dia de los Muertos, and Magic City Gras. Is that right? Like Mardi Gras, Magic City Gras? Yep. Currently, Cristina is Programs Chair and member of Alabama PRSA, part of the Advisory Board for the Hispanic Catholic Social Services of North Alabama, and member of, and my French is terrible, La Dame d'Escoffier. Is that right? That's my South Alabama French. Sorry about that. The Birmingham chapter, and she is a board member of Fiesta Birmingham. And now that I have butchered this French, I'm pleased to welcome Cristina Almanza. Thank you, Cristina.
Thank you, everyone. It's so great to be with you guys. And thank you to Amber and to Nancy for helping me set up, and also to Audrey. And it's so good to see many familiar faces, many PR fellows here. So I really appreciate y'all's time. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And can you guys hear me well?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Okay, good. Okay. So I apologize because this is the first time I've actually done this on Zoom. I actually have never stopped coming to the office. So Zoom meetings are a rare thing for me. So today we're talking about Latins, and I decided to use Latinx because that's the new term. So let's start with the basics. What is the term, right? Is it Latina? Is it Hispanic? Is it Latinx? The answer is very simple. It is very complicated. So the term actually, it's not a term we came up with. It's not a term that I chose or my great-grandfather chose. It actually was determined by the census. It was come because of Hispanic, means of Hispanic descent. So that was the first term. That was the first one that was used, and it was used to, I guess, address anybody that was a Spanish speaker. So that included Spain. And then later on, of course, there's the love languages. So you have Brazil and Portugal that speak Portuguese that is very similar to Spanish. So that's where you get Latino, which is from Latin America, because the majority of the Latin American countries speak Spanish or Portuguese or something in between, a mixture of those. So again, this is a term from the census. The new one, Latinx, is to include the LGBTQ community and non-gender specific people. So if you ask me which one do I use, I go back and forth. Some days I am Hispanic, some days I am Latina. What matters to us, to anybody that you meet that is Hispanic or Latino, is actually the country of origin. We start by differentiating ourselves by our country of origin. So I also wanted to bring you all a map because obviously there's over 21 countries that are represented or that could be part of the Hispanic or Latino term. So I thought that would be helpful.
Also, a couple of things that I wanted to show, that French Guianas are not part because they are based on, they speak primarily French. And then Belize, which I was very shocked, surprisingly, isn't it? Because I'm part of the Latino terminology. Belize is not considered a Latin country because they were colonized by England. So their primary language is English. Although there's also a mixed language there, and there's some people that speak Spanish, and same goes for Haiti. So that's the first thing. Let me get some water. So I wanted to tell you also that even Spanish, even though that's the common denominator, and that's how the census sees us, it varies depending on the country where you're from. I love this little neat infographics. These are produced by Radix, and this is their Instagram hashtag. You can follow them. They actually have really cool information. If you're a Spanish learner or are trying to learn Spanish, this is actually really neat because you get to see a lot of information. So pen, which there's only one word in English, you can see how different it is depending on the country where you're from. For me in Mexico, it is pluma. Flat out loud. Lapicero is actually your pencil, your electric or automatic pencil. My friends from Colombia call it bolígrafo. And then even the word kid is different depending where you are. And we have slang, and we also have dialects and regionalisms, similar to the United States, you know, where you have Southern English and where you have also Northern English. A funny story is that when I first moved to the United States, I learned in an American school English. So my English was, I guess, Midwestern, very centralized. So for the first whole month that I was here at JSU, I could not figure out who y'all was. I was trying to figure out who this guy was. I thought he was super popular, but I could not figure it. So just when you're thinking about Spanish and the Latino culture or the Hispanic culture, keep that in mind. That is extremely important for us. And I'll go into detail in a little bit more. So then I also wanted to give you some facts, because with me being in marketing and PR, I think it's important that you guys know about our local facts and our local population and the current situation for us too. Right now, of course, you know, with the census, I'm curious to see what happens, but as of 2017, there were 58 million people in the United States that are considered Hispanic population. I think I just read recently a number that was 60 million, but I didn't want to really quote it because it wasn't a good source, so I was really nervous. It is expected that this year, 1 out of 2 of the births in the United States in 2020 will be someone that is of Hispanic or Latino descent. So that's pretty crazy. And then I thought this one also was really cool, the marketing geek over here. 1.8 trillion is the buying power of the Hispanic/Latino community. That's a lot of money. And it's supposed to be growing. So that, I thought it was very interesting. As of July 1st, there are roughly, okay, I went over already that one, that there's roughly 58 million Hispanics in the United States. So based on that, that makes us the largest minority, growing minority in the United States. And we are considered right now 18.1% of the total population. Again, I am interested to see what happens with the census. I'm not really sure where we're gonna be. It'll be interesting, especially with them cutting the date and then moving it back forward. I think it'll be definitely neat to see where we stand. And then I included some facts about Alabama. I think that is also very important to see it. Because, you know, again, because you're talking about 21 different countries or so, you know, primarily in Alabama, you can see that the majority of us are from Mexican descent. But then I also got this really cool little infographic. This is from the Latino News. It's our local Hispanic newspaper. They do a lot of really good work. You can see where the majority of Hispanics are primarily. You can see that primarily we're in Jefferson County. I think that also is changing because I have seen a lot of them being in different counties now that, you know, again, these numbers are a little bit old, so will be interesting. So then now that I kind of given you a global perspective of what the definition, the term, and where we are, and, kind of the population and the statistics, I wanted to share with you my story and kind of tell you what it is like to be Latino, to be an immigrant in the United States. So I am going to share with you, this is, as Audrey mentioned, my US birthday is coming up. On September the 27th, I became a US citizen. So my 3-year-old birthday will be in a couple of weeks, or in a couple of days, I guess. And this is the picture of my citizenship ceremony. As you can see, there is Teresa Odom, which is also a Women's Network. She's my fiesta mom too. She was there. I had people that came over from JSU. I have some faculty professors. I had some people from Buffalo Rock. I had my future husband there, and then my parents also traveled from Mexico to witness me become a U.S. citizen, which was also kind of sad, because when I became a U.S. citizen by law in the United States, I had to give away the rights to my Mexican citizenship. In the eyes of the United States, I am no longer a Mexican citizen. Having said that, Mexico still considers me their daughter. So it's pretty interesting dynamic, because it's almost like we don't talk about it. So that's why you'll see people that might have dual citizenship or dual passports, even though the United States does not recognize dual citizenship. So I thought that was a little neat fact that you guys might like to see. So I wanted to tell you about my journey, because I think there is so much misinformation about immigration and about what it means to be documented and non-documented. And I think that is definitely a perspective that can really help you guys when you are reaching to the Hispanic community, or when you're trying to learn more about a Latino community. So to start, I was not a citizen. I did not have any family in the United States. I came in because I got a scholarship to Jacksonville State University in 2001 to the International House Program. So I start right here. I did not have any family in the US. So then after that, I went on with my life. I did my Bachelor of Fine Arts. Then I got my MBA. And then my first job, I started it with my MBA. And that's going to become critical, because that was actually my saving grace. Had I started my job with the company that sponsored me for my green card without an MBA, I would still not be a citizen. I would still probably not have a green card. So I think that's very important to clarify there. So when it says, are you skilled? Yes, because I started with an MBA. So as you can see, it asks if you had a college degree or a specialty. That was the MBA. And you can see from there, it says, okay, you have a shot. So I did have a job offer. I was working for Sorrel Dental Center at the time. And this is another really important thing that I want to tell you guys about, is that I circle it very highly, because the question is your employer willing to file paperwork for labor certification and conduct a new job search for your position and pay up to $10,000 in legal fees? Sorrel Dental Center did that for me. That's how I got my green card. For a month, they had to put my actual job out. They had to advertise it in all the newspapers, local newspapers, and they had to submit it to a national database. Keep in mind, I am, I think at the time, maybe 26, 27, and they are putting out my job. HB 56 was within months of having just happened or had just happened. So you can only imagine how burdensome it was, because they had to prove that there was no one able to do my job in order for me to qualify for the green card. The other thing they could not advertise, even though it was a big part of my job, it was that I was doing Hispanic marketing, or that I spoke Spanish, or that Spanish was part of my position. That could not be included, even though it was a very drastic part of, or very big part of what I did for Sorrel Dental Centers. That could not be included, because that was considered discrimination for the government of the United States. So that month probably was one of the heaviest and hardest months of my life, just trying to know if I'm staying in. And of course, there's a lot of people that are extremely qualified. It's also a lot of work and very demanding for HR, because they have to file the paperwork, they have to follow protocol, they have to justify every single resume that they receive why they do not qualify for my job. So I wanted to let you know that, because I thought a lot of you guys probably did not know or were aware. So we are over the 1 month, the excruciating month, and I do get it. It qualifies. The government accepts all the paperwork. I want to say my binder was almost Bible size when they send it to the government with all the documents and all the resumes and all. So after that, I had to wait for 6 months. And then I finally got my green card. Once I got my green card, I continued working for Sorrel Dental for 2 years, and then I moved to Birmingham. I was allowed to do that. The law changed. Before it was you had to stay with that employer for over 5 years. At year 5, I was eligible to apply for citizenship. And then after a year, once I applied for citizenship, I finally became a citizen of the United States on September 27th. So in total, just to recap for you guys, my little journey, it took me 16 years from the time I came with Jacksonville State as a student all the way to when I became a citizen. The cost is something that we don't talk about, but for me, it was almost $60,000, and that's 60 in fees from government, from attorney fees, from having to travel, from having to move around, because when I applied for the citizenship, I actually had to go to Atlanta and take the test, the famous citizenship test that you talk about, and it was twice. My citizenship, I guess, ceremony was in Montgomery. So, we consider all those travel costs and everything. So that's in a nutshell what it is for someone that is legally, or what they call legally documented. And my story, believe it or not, is actually a rose-colored story. It's probably one of the easiest stories that you'll hear. It's probably what we call in between my community a deluxe story. My story was a princess story because it was so easy. There was really no hardships per se. So, even within our community, I have several friends. I mentioned Vanessa from the Latino News. We are very mindful when we speak to other Latinos because a lot of them are not as lucky as we are. So it's very difficult when you're talking to somebody else because legal immigration or the current immigration is definitely a factor for us. It's definitely an issue. It makes it very, very difficult. I consider myself very, very lucky for doing that. I think another thing that you guys need to be aware is that with the current Latino families, there are definitely different circumstances that are happening. This happens with any of my friends right now. You might have the parents that came, undocumented because they were looking for a better life. Whether that's right or not, I'm just giving you the background. They came undocumented. They may have brought a child that was born in Mexico who was undocumented. The child could have been between 2 or 1 or 3 years old when they came to the United States. So that child's not a citizen. Some of these children, they're considered the dreamers. That's what you hear in the community, the DACA or the dreamers kids. These kids came in limbo because they were brought by their parents. They had no recourse or I guess will to decide whether or not they came. And then of course you may have a little brother or sister that was born in the United States that is a citizen. So the dynamics in a family that is a Hispanic family are very complicated because you can have family members that are citizens. You can have family members that are in complete limbo, as is the dreamers, and then you can have parents that are undocumented. There are cases of parents that have been undocumented, that have been picked up by immigration, that even though they might have a son that is a citizen, they will get completely deported and taken back to Mexico. And there's no recourse for them to come back. I have customers right now that are undocumented that would like to become documented, and there's no way for them to do that. Even if they wanted to pay to become documented, there's no way. So when you hear about people not being able to get a license or not being able to get the documentation appropriate for, it's not because they don't want to, it's because there's no way for them to do it. So I wanted to give you guys that background and that story. So changing back, if you're trying to reach to Latinos, I think definitely you need to be aware of language barriers. Once again, you have 3 different generations that can be happening in a family, in a dynamic. You could have a person that, is a Spanish speaker first. Then you have the kid that came to the United States as a child that speaks only English or half English. And then you have the child that has been born here in the United States that can also speak Spanish or English. Again, keep in mind that these kids were here in the United States, only know the United States. They've never known Mexico or Guatemala or Honduras or wherever they came from. So the only country they know is the United States. And then you have the parents that have the nostalgia. I have a really cool anecdote. When I worked at the dental center, I had to get a patient in. I had to intake them. The mom did not speak any English. The mom was bringing the kid for a dental cleaning. And there were 2 girls, teenage girls, and they were talking in English, and they were going to town about this boy that they were talking to. And it was kind of embarrassing because I could understand what they were saying, and I almost felt like telling the mom, you may want to watch what your daughters are doing. But it was just so interesting to see it happen in my face, because you have the girls that fully speak English, and then the mom has no idea. Another question that also happens a lot and that I hear a lot is, why do these people don't learn English, or why do they not speak English? I want to address that because it's important. Most of the people that come to the United States, again, if they come on an undocumented circumstance, they're coming to find work. They're coming for basic work that is in the back of kitchens, that it may be farmers, you name it. They're very basic, hard labor, intense jobs. Some of them may have 1. A lot of them have 2 jobs that they're working. So learning English is not a priority for them. It's more trying to subside and subsist and make sure that they make ends meet, because a lot of them are sending money back home for their families too. So when you hear someone say, why do they not learn English? It's not because they don't want to, or not because they don't have the time. It's really because of their circumstances, because they are being forced because of their economy. A lot of them are fleeing low poverty circumstances too. So again, that's why mine is considered rose gold, or like the ideal princess immigration thing that happened because I was educated. I didn't have the need or the necessity. Being in the United States was an option, not really something that I needed. For me, becoming a citizen was more a reason because I love the United States, 1, but then also because I wanted to make sure that I was not gonna be kicked out at any point. It makes it very, very difficult. So with that, the next thing, like I told you at the beginning, not everyone is Mexican, but country of origin does take priority. So when you're speaking to someone, it is very tempting to call them Mexicans or say, I don't speak Mexican. It's Spanish. Just remember that because that can definitely affect, when you're speaking to somebody, or definitely when you're doing advertising or marketing. We have different pockets. I know in Alderville, there's a huge Guatemalan population. That one's also very interesting because most of the people that come from Guatemala, Spanish is not their first language. Quiche, which is a native language, is their first language. So that can also become very interesting because you're translating from Quiche to Spanish, then to English. So just imagine how difficult it can get when you're talking to someone that it's their third language that they're trying to interpret. So yeah, that one's definitely interesting. What I told you guys about realizing that within one family, there may be different legal status happening. It is definitely, we're on political season. We are on election time. It is very real for us. We're all touched by it. We all know of somebody, especially if you're in the Latino community, you have someone that has been touched and affected from it. I have had people that almost got deported that I know that are acquaintances. I have friends that are dreamers that are living with this constant thing in the back of their head of not knowing whether they can stay or go. They're nervous because, again, they don't know this country that is called Mexico that they came from, and they're not sure. And then you have the ones of us that are here, we're citizens, we got the full rights, and we're good to go. So it's definitely challenging. That's why the title is complicated. Also, another thing that I would really advise to you guys is when you are doing marketing or you're trying to reach to the Hispanic community, please don't use Google Translate. And please make sure that you do reach or have a Hispanic or a Latino look over your advertising. You saw the information that I shared with you just now about how even pen, the word pen can be so different, how even child can be so different. There is a word in Argentina, they call the child pendejo, which in Mexican Spanish, it's actually kind of a bad word. So you have to be very careful because, you know, you can have all the really good intentions of putting something out and it turns out you got the wrong Spanish because Google couldn't define it or look at it or didn't know the nuances of the language, and it may not be okay. You might be offending your audience. I also included the logos of some of my Latino people here that are great sources. Definitely the Latino newspaper. They've been in business for 20 years. They're a great resource. Vanessa Vargas is also a great person to reach out to. She is definitely very in tune with what is happening. She can definitely advise you, and they also have graphic designers on site. There is also 98.3 La Jefa. It's our Hispanic radio station. And it is broadly listened here in town. So a lot of times if you happen to walk by a restaurant and you hear music happening, usually they're listening to the Jefa here locally. So it's also another source if you're looking to advertise or if you have a community or if you have employees that are Hispanic, that's also a really good resource. Now with the caveat, La Jefa is very focused on Hispanic Mexicans. It is run by Mexicans. So again, that may not be or may be good. And then also, shameless plug, I put myself here. I have done translation work and Hispanic work for different organizations. A really good example that I thought about was telling you about, I did recently a job of a map in Birmingham. They were trying to do a big map about the Civil Rights Institute and all the different attractions. So I chose not to translate. We translated the name of the location. So say the Civil Rights Institute. It said Civil Rights Institute, and then in Spanish it said Instituto de Derechos Civiles. But at the bottom, the address was not translated. They had someone else look over it, which I think is great. You should always have more than 2 people that speak Spanish look at it. But the person that looked over it was asking, she should translate the address. And my response to her was, no, she should not. We should not. Because if this is a person that is coming and is visiting that is a Spanish speaker, and they're trying to talk to somebody and get to the address, if you show them the information in Spanish and you're an English speaker that does not speak Spanish, you would not be able to direct them. And also you would not be able to know the name of the organization. So that's a really small nuance, but it's critical and it's very important when you're reaching to the audience, because while you think it might be great to just do it all in Spanish, it really may not work out for what you're trying to reach. So I'm almost to the end and I'm gonna open it to questions, but if I don't do this for my Fiesta mom, Teresa, and of course this is huge for us, we are celebrating 30 days of Fiesta. Usually Fiesta happens every year, the 3rd weekend in September. Of course, you know, Corona has made it very, very hard for us to get together. We usually have over 14,000 people that show up. We have Hispanics come from Mobile, we have them from Montgomery, we have people to come from Atlanta, but this year we can't have it. So we have chosen to do 30 days of Fiesta in conjunction with Hispanic Heritage Month. So it's starting September 15th through October the 15th. You can check us online on our social media at Fiesta Birmingham if you're trying to learn more. We're having different activities daily. We're going to have cooking classes, and we are also planning to have 2 movies. And to go with it, we also have a little Fiesta box that we're going to have available for sale that will have a lot of Hispanic activities and different activities that relate to the different countries and learning more about what is being Latino. So I thank you all so much for your time. I am opening for questions, and I'm going to stop sharing my presentation and let Audrey take over.
Thank you very much, Cristina. Ladies, please feel free to ask Cristina any questions you might have.
I've got one.
Yes, Babs.
So, Christina, thank you so much. You're right. It's much more complicated than I knew. Is it, you know how we say, what are your pronouns? Is it okay? Is it good to ask where you are from? And just to sort of, so we can understand better. And also, would you please share that PowerPoint, your presentation with us?
Yes, absolutely. Audrey has a copy, and it's open. You know, this is all open information. And yes, it's no wrong to ask where you're from. I think, you know, it is difficult. Definitely what's going on also with civil rights right now in the country has made us aware of how do we ask where you're from? But I think, you know, as long as you're genuine, as long as you're empathetic, it's okay, you know, to ask where you're from. I think when it can become an issue, and I think all of us can tell this when someone is going, oh, law, like super slow, or like, where are you from? Like with a hateful remark. I think it's definitely in the tonality or the way that you say it that can be taken out of context, and that you can tell. You can tell when someone's doing it to be nice or when someone's doing it to be mean. But yeah, by all means ask. I think we would all appreciate that. And also feel free to speak Spanish to us. We also really appreciate that, because a lot of people expect us to speak English and want us to speak English. And, you know, again, as you heard, the circumstances might be very difficult for some. Some of us are very capable and some of us are in the process of learning still.
Who else has questions? Don't be shy, Sandy. Sandy, you're on mute still.
I thoroughly enjoyed listening to your journey, Christina, of how you came into this country and the process that you went through. I mean, I had no idea. 16 years, you said, and all the money that it costs. You know, I would like to learn a little bit more to be able to explain to people who there's a lot of miscommunication about Hispanic people or Latinos coming into our country, and like, you know, they just came here to get, you know, free health care or whatever. You know, there's so much miscommunication. And you made a remark about people that come in undocumented, probably trying to, you know, get a better life for themselves and their family. But you made a comment about they came in undocumented. They would like to be documented, but they can't. And that's the part I don't understand. You know, I mean, if you want to come into this country, what is you gave us your journey of the legal way to do it, but what are some of the challenges? Do you have to be like released from your country, or why is it so hard to become documented? Other than the cost factor.
Yeah, and I can give you the example of my sister-in-law. If you want to get a visa to just come and visit the United States, so let me backtrack first. If we think our tax laws are complicated, immigration law is pretty much, you know, till tax law hold my beer. That's how difficult they are. They're very, very complicated. They're ever changing. The infographic that I showed you is from 2008, and it's very accurate with my journey. That's why I chose it, because it really demonstrates it. But it has changed, and there's changes still going on today. So going back to my sister-in-law, she, in order for her to come and get a visa to just come and visit the United States, that's not allowing her to work, that's just coming to visit, she had to prove her income, and there's a certain amount of money you have to prove for the income. She had to make an appointment, and there's a waiting period. And I think the first time she actually got denied. I think once she got married to my brother and they showed their income as a couple, that's when she was able to finally get a visa to come to the United States. So the process is not easy by any means. If you want to come to work, there is a very limited number of visas available. You saw how hard it is for an employer to request a job seeker or a job applicant. There's the US government, or the way that the law is written right now, makes it very difficult for someone to hire someone that is not a US citizen, which is in their due right. You know, again, I don't want to sound like, I believe in the sovereignty of a country. I believe it's extremely important that the United States has these laws. I'm not disagreeing or advocating against the laws. I think it's extremely important that each country has their laws. It's just the fact that it's very difficult right now, the way that the laws are written. So there are different migrant programs for work, but some have been taken out. Then, you know, you have a very set time frame. So even going back to my sister-in-law, her visa for coming and visiting to the United States is only good for 6 months. If she goes over a month, then she would be completely banned from getting another visa. So, you know, if you have a family member that is very sick, or for some reason you decide to stay and you go over 1 month, you're out. There's no way back. There's different circumstances and different things that it's just, again, it's so complicating, and depending on your situation. You know, I laugh and I tell my husband that he definitely cannot deny that I marry him because I love him, because I was a citizen before I married him. But, you know, some people do have to marry. And it's not because they really want to get married. It's because there's no other way for them to stay, and they love each other enough to get married. Now, talking about new things that are happening in the United States too, the office, or the government office that gave me my citizenship, is called a naturalization office. That's where you become a naturalized citizen. The day that I became a citizen, my immigration attorney called me and said, do not post anything on social media, do not become political. I have never been political. I try to keep it, you know, especially with my job at Buffalo Rock. I cannot take sides on anything. I just, you know, it's a no-no for us. But he said that there were rumors, and he was hearing that there's now a denaturalization office out. So they're actually looking at, you know, when you talk about marriage, you've had some people that have married and then have gotten divorced. Again, some people might just say, hey, can we just get married and you help me out? I mean, I don't know, you know, again, there's different circumstances. I'm not judging how people do things. It's my understanding that that was the primary function, was to look at people that may have gotten their citizenship and did not deserve to get their citizenship. But again, as you can see, the journey is extremely difficult, and you saw how that little puzzle moved around. It's almost like a Monopoly road. So it's not an easy way. It's definitely, it needs reform. If you ask me right now, because I've had that asked, I've had a lot of people ask, aren't you mad because you paid $60,000 and you waited 16 years? Aren't you mad that there's an undocumented person? And my answer is, I'm not. Especially not with the Dreamer kids, because, you know, again, they came as children. And I cannot be mad when I know that they may want to get their things in order. They may want to have this way to fix it, and there's not a way for them to fix it. My customers that I talk about, they came young, and he wants desperately to become a citizen. He employs US citizens. He has his business. He's very successful. He can't. The government is telling him he has to go back to Mexico, wait 18 years, and then maybe at 18 years, he can qualify to come back. At that point, what is the point? You know, like, and he is a really successful business person. So it's very complicated. That's why I wanted to emphasize the title. It's just not an easy journey. So I hope that helps and answers your question.
It does, and I think we should do, or a better job needs to be done to communicate that message to people, because, you know, we're not hearing that story.
Right.
And people are just, you know, they think they know, and they jump on a bandwagon, and they haven't understood the whole issue, you know, because no one is communicating it.
Right. I think if you're trying to talk to somebody that is not familiar and does not have the time, like you guys had time today for me, if they say, why can't they get a license? Why can they not get documented? I would just tell them, hey, there's really not a recourse for them right now. It's actually more complicated, and maybe open the conversation then after that. I think that's the way for them to understand that it's not that they don't want to, it's that it's not available or they can't. So, and again, there are, I'm not going to say, because, there's bad people and good people everywhere. And I get extremely mad when I hear about a Hispanic that got on a wreck or had a DUI or that left the scene of the car accident. They probably left the scene of the car accident because they're freaking very scared because they're afraid they're going to get deported. But I think that's extremely wrong. If you have a car accident, you should stay. You should not leave. Same thing. You should not be driving and drinking. But again, I understand that, if they were an American, it wouldn't be a big deal. Now, I'm glad I brought the DUI thing back up because that was something I meant to mention. I mentioned it in y'all's different meeting. When I was in the process of becoming a citizen, it was so funny. My immigration attorney told me, you can kill somebody, you can steal, but do not get a DUI. If you get a DUI, your case will be completely dismissed and you're out. And I was like, you're kidding me. And he said, nope. And it is true. I've had acquaintances that unfortunately were drinking and driving. A police officer stopped them. And, for an officer, this is a minor offense. It's not that big of a deal, I guess, for you to be charged with a DUI, but their case is done. Their case is out. So, there's issues also within the different legal departments of the government because a lot of peace officers do not know that if you give a DUI to someone that is an immigrant, you've shot their case. They're done. There's nothing you can do for them. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any more questions?
Well,
Christina, thank you.
I was just going to say, Christina, this was such a good program and so educational. And I think that we all learned things that we thought we knew everything about and we just didn't. So thank you for being here.
Definitely eye-opening.
Yeah, I think you have really enlightened us on the struggles and challenges. I mean, we don't live it day to day unless we have someone right next to us at work or, someone very close to us. So, when we don't live it day to day, we don't know it. So thank you for sharing your journey and the struggles and in a story form. It was really well done. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
And I'm going to say, unfortunately, this issue is just like so many in our country that get elevated very loudly in a very negative way, so we don't have an opportunity to understand the real legitimate challenges of this. The United States is better because of the fact that it's a diverse country. And unfortunately, the politics that we all live with every day is that, the illegals, quote unquote, are dangerous and this sort of thing. And if it's not very hard for us to understand that the journey is difficult, that's obvious. And if we as a country were better at not using these types of issues to divide us, we would all have a better understanding and be able to move forward in a much more productive way. My personal family is just a melting pot, and my niece on my husband's side is married to a young man from Colombia. And I thought if you were married, this is a legitimate marriage. They're just as cute as they can be, but they live with the fear every day of him being deported. And she's made the decision that if he's deported, she'll go. And it's just devastating for our whole family. And every time there's a big brouhaha where we feel like the buses are rolling and picking people up, we fear for them. And it's a horrible way to live, and it's just so unnecessary. But it is what it is. So I just share that, vent my spleen a little bit in this safe space.
Thank you for sharing that, Valerie. And you bring up a good point when you talked about using like the term illegals and like dehumanizing language. I know there's a big push in the media to use humanizing language, undocumented citizens, enslaved persons, not dehumanizing and other people when you talk about them, which I think is something that we should all be conscious of, because I think it's sort of gotten rooted into our lexicon, but we have to make a conscious effort to be more compassionate and show a little more grace.
Exactly.
And would you say, Valerie, is so common among us, it's so common among our friends? You know,
Yeah.
we'll go about our life and talk about whatever's happening or whatever's going, but then you'll have the little, you know, break about, oh, how's your status or whatever. So what you talk about is something that we live with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry for your niece, but it's good that you're aware of it. And I think that's the most important thing, is that, you know, we should all be aware of that, because it's so easy to just forget. And like Audrey mentioned, it's so easy to just go to calling everybody illegal,
Right.
And not understanding what goes behind it, or, you know, that sometimes you really don't want to be illegal. It's just you kind of fell into being illegal for X or Y, Z reason, and not because you've intentionally missed an appointment or missed a paper. There was more into it than you know, just becoming illegal.
I know our
It's just
time's
about
about up.
human beings. It's still, you know, just about human beings, and you know, all of us want the same thing. We want a decent life. We want our kids to be happy. We want to go to Disney World, for heaven's sakes. And I don't understand why we cannot just support each community on its own, as far as just people who want to live the way with some dignity, and project that as their priority, versus people who want to come in here and take from someone else, which is just not the reality at all. Anyway.
I know our time's about up, but I have a quick question. I hope you can answer it quickly. If you came into this country illegally, does that mean it kills all your chances for becoming a citizen?
More than likely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there is new recourses, and there's, again, the dreamers, you know, they are considered that they have come illegally, but the government has made a special bracket for them. And I think now that you understand why they did that, because, you know, again, these were children being brought with their parents that were looking for the best interest for them. But again, the law is changing every day. There are cases of people that came undocumented that have become documented, but it's a long process and very expensive process, very hard.
Well, Cristina, before we let you go, our theme is women helping women. So as a group of women helping women, what can we do to be agents for change?
Hire more Hispanic people. If you can, you know, give us the benefit of the doubt, and be a little bit more open-minded. I'm sure, you know, there's every color in this meeting. There are times that it's difficult. I mean, I got a two on me, right? I'm a woman and then I'm Hispanic, so it's like bam, 2 in 1. But I think it's, and definitely just be open and be willing to listen, and just have empathy. I think that's the biggest thing, is just be empathetic and understand that, I guess I do it for not just for us Latinos. I think I've now learned that I should do it on a general basis, because I never really know what someone is living or going through, and I'm not wearing their shoes. So it's easy to pass judgment. So trying to not pass judgment or judge a book by its cover, I think it's extremely important. So that would be my advice for y'all to help us.
Well, thank you very much, Cristina, and thank you for sharing your story with us today. I know we all gained a lot from it. Our next meeting will be on September the 24th. We'll have Lisa Harris Boyd, who is the founder of Life is Short Adventures. She'll be talking about the challenges, opportunities, and tips. I can't read my own handwriting. She'll be talking about the challenges, opportunities, and tips for traveling during a pandemic. So that'll be an exciting program too. And with that, this meeting of the Women's Network is adjourned. Thank you, Cristina. Hang on just 1 second, because I do have one more question for you.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Gail, you can stop our